Well, is everyone awake and ready? After Paul led this beautiful affirmation and some yoga practice here. So thank you all for being here today. It's been a wonderful joy to listen to music by Sherry and David. And what a wonderful inspirational talk by Dr. Rubenstone. And thank you, Paul, for leading some of this yoga practice and affirmation. That is really helpful. It was much needed before my own talk. It is truly a blessing to be here today to share my experience and to shed some light on this important topic. So I think Shanti mentioned in her talk about this cartoon that this physician is asking the patient, when was your last stress test? And she said, well, I went to work yesterday. And here's the other one, said the nurse is basically told by the nurse manager that I know it's been a rough shift, but look at the bright side, you only have 7 hours to go. And this feels like a story of my daily life since high school years. So why am I here today? Well, we all know that environment is stronger than willpower. And I have been the victim of it myself throughout my career. My stressful journey in the medical field began in 1992 when I got merit-based admission into medical school in India after exceeding the challenges of an extremely competitive high school curriculum there. And this stress was added by adverse circumstances I faced when I immigrated to the United States. Over the course of years, I went through rigorous training of internal medicine, residency, and pulmonary critical care fellowship. And Shanti, I would like to say I did not spend as many hours as you did, but I certainly did more than what people are spending right now. So it gives me PTSD sometimes. And I couldn't have done this without support of my lovely joint family that I live in. After settling down in my career one day, in the moments of relaxation in early 2012, a question dawned on me. What is next in this life for me? And this led me to reading Autobiography of a Yogi. Now, interestingly, this book was present in my household since I was a child, but never was curious enough to pick up this book and read it. So I came to read Autobiography of a Yogi, and I was deeply inspired, and my life since has transformed like millions of people who have read this book. In my quest of peace and joy, I found Ananda online with a wealth of information about the practical teachings of yoga and meditation based on Paramahansa Yogananda's teachings. I started basic meditation practice on my own from this website, and after a few years, took a deeper dive into Kriya Yoga. Throughout this time, I enriched my professional development in which I was involved in the work related to burnout in healthcare professionals, and quickly realized that much more is needed to be done in this area besides the wellness programs offered by the health systems. So here's the outline of my talk today. I'm gonna give you some data about burnout in healthcare professionals. We'll talk about what is resilience in terms of American Psychological Association. Then we'll touch upon some concepts of human consciousness from yoga science standpoint in its truest sense. I will also share some medical research on meditation. And then we'll talk about resilience of a warrior. We are all in this life, which is a battlefield, and yoga teaches us how to be a warrior. Okay, so burnout, it was first coined by Herbert Freudenberg as he observed drug addicts just staring unaware while the cigarettes in their hands burn away. In professionals, it is the state of mental exhaustion, frequently due to high stress, overwork, combined with high ideals. And key symptoms of burnout include, as you see here, emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, cynicism, and decreased sense of personal and professional accomplishment. So this is the data from Medscape, National Physician Burnout and Suicide Report 2020. And just for the purpose of this talk, I would like to clarify that some of the data I'm presenting here reflects the issue of burnout in physicians, but it is prevalent across the board in healthcare professionals at all levels. So this report was obtained from more than 15,000 physicians of various ages, and they participated from 29 different specialties. 42% of the physicians reported that they are burned out, and the top specialties included critical care, emergency medicine, family medicine, internal medicine, neurology, and urology. But you see that it's prevalent like 30%, up to 30, the lowest one is 30% among the specialties. Depression is felt similarly in all generations of physicians. So what contributes to the burnout? The leading causes of burnout are bureaucratic tasks, use of computerized records, overworking, and administrative burden, as driven by the workplace and organizational culture. It is also supplemented by lack of respect, lack of control, declining reimbursement, and inadequate compensation. Now, finding solutions requires addressing this problem themselves, which is an inherent challenge in the healthcare industry. However, building resilience to deal with this multifaceted and multi-level issue is supremely important for our own well-being, our families and patients, while we collectively influence changes in this field. So it is interesting that almost half of the physicians are willing to take a pay cut for a better work-life balance, and this cartoon explains it well. Now, in terms of suicide, estimated 300 to 400 physicians commit suicide each year. In this survey, large majority who said they were depressed have never considered suicide. However, about 1% have attempted suicide. That's a large number because the data is from more than 15,000 physicians. And also notice that about 9% preferred not to answer this question. This is devastating for physicians, their friends, and families, and for the patients they take care of. Now, there is increasing pressure for organizations and hospitals to provide wellness programs for physicians. However, many don't believe such programs are helpful. Others don't want to let colleagues at their workplace know that they are feeling burned out. This slide and the previous slide demonstrates that while more can be done in terms of wellness of the healthcare professionals, we as healthcare professionals are not good at letting others take care of ourselves. So how do physicians cope with burnout? Well, personally, I have used isolation, sleep, exercise, and giving earful to my family at dinner table to cope with burnout before I came to know about meditation. The encouraging news here is that majority of the physicians are likely to use positive coping mechanisms rather than escape or self-medicating activities to deal with burnout. So preventing burnout certainly requires some personal disciplines in life besides socialization. We have to be self-aware and stay vigilant and take care of ourselves first. Now, I suggest that we should analyze ourselves regularly about what energizes us in our career and job. Is it patient interaction, procedures, mix of clinical and administrative work, or teaching? Always ask if you are trapped into your current job or if it is the best job for you. Remember, your training and experience makes you portable. Now, being able to control work schedule and being realistic is a key here. We are always asked to do more, to squeeze in one more patient, or do one more procedure, to skip lunch, or stay late. This detracts from time and energy spent on personal wellness and increases the risk of burnout. So what are the key principles in treating burnout? They are listed here, but our focus today is going to be wellness strategy and building resilience. I want to point out here that engagement is the antithesis of burnout and is characterized by vigor, absorption, and dedication. This can be powerful in the right setting and would help improve the well-being of colleagues, friends, and families. Building resilience involves incorporating positive attitudes and effective strategies and coping skills. So, what is resilience? Well, American Psychological Association defines it as process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress, such as family and relationship problems, serious health problems, or workplace and financial stressors. Now, being resilient does not mean that a person won't experience difficulty or distress. People who have suffered major adversity or trauma in their lives commonly experience emotional pain and stress. In fact, the road to resilience is likely to involve considerable emotional distress. Now, this is per American Psychological Association. Life is a journey without map. Adverse circumstances and challenges are part of everyone's life. However, coping and learning from these experiences can be different for everyone. Just remember that smooth life is not a victorious life. And the avenues to help build resilience are listed here, such as building connections, fostering wellness, finding purpose, and embracing healthy thoughts. Okay, so far we have talked about the data on burnout and strategies to prevent and treat burnout. Now let's delve into understanding our consciousness from the standpoint of science of yoga and how it helps us in our day-to-day interaction. And Shanti has done a remarkable job in explaining some of this. Hopefully I'll make the point again and it will make more sense. So in life, we all have one common purpose: be happy and avoid suffering. There are different avenues we use to fulfill this. However, most of us try to be happy by satisfying endless desires of our minds, by the attachment of our senses to outer sense objects such as food, money, wine, and many other things that are listed here. This is, however, short-lived as it is conditional. And restless mind, always looking to fulfill new desires, doesn't help this purpose. Our happiness is robbed by ups and downs of moral moods or feelings and restless thoughts. The volatility of our moods is like a stock market. And this cartoon explains it well, how, when you're sitting to meditate, that restless mind it does not want to focus, um, and you just don't feel inner peace as a result. Now, this is a beautiful quote from Autobiography of a Yogi. Thoughts are universally and not individually rooted. Paramhansa Yogananda explains about the power of calm mind and willpower in this sentence here. The human mind, free from the static of restlessness, can perform through its antenna of intuition all the functions of complicated radio mechanisms, sending and receiving thoughts and tuning out undesirable ones. As the power of a radio depends on the amount of electrical current it can utilize, so the human radio is energized according to the power of will possessed by each individual. I recommend reading this book, Demystifying Patanjali, the Yoga Sutras by J. Donald Walters, or otherwise known as Swami Kriyananda. He beautifully explained about consciousness in this book. Our consciousness comprises of mind or thoughts, intellect, feeling or emotions, and ego. Interplay of this is a constant phenomenon in action and reaction. Quiet mind is like a lake with crystal clear water that reflects everything as it is. Restlessness and moods leads to muddy the water of clarity in the perception of reality. Yogananda defined ego as a soul identified with the body, which means separateness. Now imagine a very slow motion of action and reaction here. So you see this horse running at the ocean, and your mind reflects the image of this horse. The intellect says it's a horse. Ego then identifies as my horse. Feeling then kicks in and says, wow, how happy I am to see my horse. Now this I and my can be personal or impersonal. So our reaction depends on our state of consciousness or awareness. It can be reactive or subconscious, analytical or conscious, and intuitive or superconscious. Our flow of energy contracts or expands depending on this awareness. Willpower will play a role in the direction and flow of this energy. Greater the willpower, greater the flow of energy. I love this beautiful verse from Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, which describes this reactive process as follows. While contemplating the objects of the sense, a person develops attachment for them. And from such attachment, lust develops. And from lust, anger arises. From anger, delusion arises. And from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. So this is how everyone deals with technology. If you're a monk, you have to have no attachment. And if you're an IT professional, you have to go into all these technological details while you're meditating. So yoga is the neutralization of the vortices of feelings. And Yogananda said in 1920s that your road to self-realization is through your own nervous system. Meditation will change your brain. So it is important to perform duty or actions and abandon all attachment to success or failure. Such evenness of mind is called yoga. Now, in the next few slides, we will see the benefits of meditation and its effects on brain. I may glance through some of the slides as my intention is to show some studies as examples and not delve into a lot of technical details. So here are the physiological effects of meditation. It reduces oxygen consumption, reduces heart rate, blood pressure, and respiratory rate, lowers body temperature and blood lactate level, which is kind of a production of a stress. It increases skin resistance and decreases electrical conductivity of skin. What I realized when I was visiting Ananda, that people there are meditating for many years, and they looked younger there than younger than their stated age. Meditation will activate the areas of brain associated with well-being, attention, and regulation of emotions. It increases the cerebral cortical thickening. It also enhances the immunological response, such as boosting effect of flu vaccine. It increases the cytolytic activity and reduces inflammatory markers such as C-reactive protein. Now, this is very interesting to me, that it reduces the expressions of genes linked to inflammatory and stress response. And I will elaborate a little bit more in next few slides. It improves the sleep quality and cognition in the elderly, reduces the anxiety and depression, and increases the empathy. Now, this is the study from Canada in March 2016, which compiled 78 functional brain imaging, including functional MRI and PET scans, of 527 participants to look for areas of activation and deactivation during 4 different types of meditation. Now, what you see here is different colored dots, and some of the dots have the pointing down arrows. The dots in different colors show activated areas of the brain, while dots with arrows represent deactivated areas. The common theme here is the areas in the frontal and prefrontal lobes, which help with the higher and complex functions, are activated, and areas in the posterior or lower brain, which are involved in sensations and fight or flight response, are inhibited. Here's another study that shows the regions of the brain affected, which involve cognition and executive function, emotional regulation, and neurotransmitter release. And you will see that areas in the blue and yellow, they have increased activity, and the area which is kind of a lower brain that shows decreased activity, which is the amygdala. And it showed that 8 weeks of mindfulness-based stress reduction induces brain changes similar to long-term meditation practice. Meditation causes neurochemical changes in the serum concentration, and those include increase in arginine, GABA, melatonin, serotonin, and decrease in cortisol, norepinephrine. It does not really change much in terms of beta endorphin, but the rhythm changes. And the net effect of this neurochemical change is relaxed alertness. So in this slide, you will see that meditation affects this telomerase, which is the enzyme that acts on the ends of the chromosome called telomeres. And by increasing this activity, it reduces the inflammatory signals and causes less stress. and the cells remain intact for a long time. There is a decrease in inflammatory state by decreasing activity of these chemicals, and also inhibition of the hypothalamus pituitary axis, which reduces the cortisol level. And the net effect on the brain cells is that they remain intact for a long time and reduce brain aging. So now let's look at a few studies about the effect of mindfulness practices in healthcare professionals. This is a systemic review of 14 studies that was spanned in 833 healthcare providers. And the interventions included breathing, meditation of different kind, and mindfulness. And they required 5 to 20 minutes a day to 30 minutes a week over 4 weeks. These were modified to fit the schedules of the providers and included tools for home practice to promote uptake of the behavior. And what they noticed is that there were positive changes in the level of stress, anxiety, mindfulness, resiliency, and burnout symptoms in 9 out of 14 studies. The studies which did not show benefit, they attributed that to inadequate participation. And there were positive changes in levels of stress and anxiety in 14 studies. Here is another study. This was done at National Institute of Health, where they actually randomized 82 healthcare professionals, 43 in mindfulness-based self-care versus 35 in life as usual. And this intervention lasted for 5 weeks and consisted of 1.5 hours in class sessions. They did assessment at baseline, week 5 and week 13, and they had the primary and secondary outcomes listed here. And the conclusion was that it reduced stress, anxiety in mindfulness group, improved positive affect, state of mindfulness, and mindful self-care. And this effect sustained at week 13. Here is the meta-analysis of 39 studies totaling more than 1,100 participants to evaluate the effect on anxiety and depression. And this was tested for a range of conditions, including cancer, generalized anxiety disorder, depression, and other psychiatric and medical conditions. And it was found that mindfulness-based therapy is a promising intervention for treating anxiety and mood problems in clinical population. Here is another meta-analysis of 21 studies, and this is checking the effect of meditation retreats, ranging from 3 to 90 days and involving different kind of meditations listed here. There were more than 2,900 participants in this. And conclusion was that meditation retreats are moderately to largely effective in reducing depression, anxiety, stress, and in ameliorating the quality of life of participants. And I can personally attest to this from my own experience of spending 8 days at Ananda village on a personal retreat. So awakening is not a metaphor. Practice of meditation leads to this state of relaxed alertness, and relaxed alertness means steady state of mind, which enriches one with kindness, sense of humor, compassion, creativity, attention, and concentration. So as you know by now, harmonious and peaceful action and reaction requires skills, and yoga is a skill in action. Now, here are the qualities and practices that would help us become skillful and resilient. As I told you earlier, life is a battlefield, and we are all warriors in this. Doesn't matter what your background is, doesn't matter what you do, what your occupation is. These skills are required. to be resilient. So number one, be a calm observer of yourself and your environment. This means being in present, and the raised awareness uplifts our state of mind. Number two, greater the will, greater the flow of energy and intuition. Without willpower, nothing is possible. One even needs a will to pick up a glass of water. This is certainly required to weaken a bad habit and form a new good habit, such as meditation. Number three, acceptance of reality as it is and not having wishful thinking. And then putting out harmonious energy in actions and reactions would help neutralize our feelings. Remember, circumstances are neutral. It is our reaction to it makes it positive or negative, as there is duality in everything. And in this tough times, you don't need to look any further for this than election polls. Number four, building a positive attitude. If you permit your thoughts to dwell on evil, you yourself will become ugly. Look only for the good in everything, so you absorb the quality of beauty. Number five, be truthful and perform your duties without attachment. Number six, introspection. Make this a regular habit. Yogananda said millions of people never analyze themselves. Mentally, they are mechanical products of the factory of their environment, preoccupied with breakfast, lunch, and dinner, working and sleeping, and going here and there to be entertained. They don't know what or why they are seeking, nor why they never realize complete happiness and lasting satisfaction. By evading self-analysis, people go on being robots, conditioned by their environment. True self-analysis is the greatest art of progress. Number seven, austerity means purity of mind, speech, and action. No action is ever an isolated event. Always it invites from the universe a reaction that corresponds exactly to the type and the force of energy behind the deed. So never do anything that taints your mind. Wrong actions cause negative or evil mental vibrations that are reflected in your whole appearance and personality. Engage in those actions and thoughts that nurture the good qualities you want to have. And lastly, be a smile millionaire. He who is wise does his best to overcome difficulties, but he smiles first, last, and all the time. There is no better panacea for sorrow, no better revivifying tonic than smiles. There is no greater power with which to overcome failure than a real smile. There is no more beautiful ornament one can wear than a genuine smile of peace and wisdom glowing on the face. So, as Paramahansa Yogananda said, be always calmly active and actively calm. Be even-minded and cheerful. Here I would like to play a small clip in the voice of Yogananda and what he has to say about this.
Remember, the best shelter is in the silence of your soul. And if you can develop that silence, nothing in the world can touch you. And you can say, Jang labdha chaparang labham mannate nadikam tata. Having which no other gain becomes greater. Then you can stand unshaken amidst the crash of breaking worlds. Then you are not in any way touched by cold and heat, pleasure and pain. But as soon as you are touched by these, you are with the movies.
And lastly, I would like to say, as quoted in Bhagavad Gita, that even a little practice of this inward religion will free you from dire fears and colossal suffering. So I hope you enjoy this talk, and I hope you will take on meditation and transform and transcend yourself. May God bless you and bless me and bless this world with strength and courage during these challenging times. Om Shanti.